All right. We are live. What is up, folks at home? Took us just a little bit. Ron's
was out
phone
there
was
waiting. I was the delay.
Yeah, he was out there washing his boat or wiping his boat down.
Literally just got in.
Yeah, and then had just slight audio issues. No big deal. It seems like it's typical when you do live streams. You know, every couple times you got some little glitch or something. So,
You know what's weird though?
What's that?
I was on my phone. The audio wasn't coming through good, but when my buddy Nick called me when I was fishing, he said he couldn't hardly hear me either. So I don't know. I gotta look at my phone when I'm done with this. So
yeah, it had a little just kind of a not a. It just sounded like you were really, really muffled, almost like you had it, covered up in your hands and you were talking through your hands almost. So,
I don't know.
I don't know. Let me check these comments.
It's time for a new phone.
Yeah, I need a new phone too, man. Mine won't even hardly charge anymore. I know I need a new battery, but it's when I plug it in to charge, I've got to wiggle the cord just right to get it to connect. But first world problems.
Yeah.
Gary wants to know where you are at.
I am no longer at Guntersville. I chickened out when all the tornadoes were forecasted, and so my partner and I hightailed it home, and they were forecasting some pretty bad stuff. They canceled school. They declared a state of emergency. They called some Torcon 9 like the highest potential for tornadoes, and so it kind of freaked us out, freaked me out, and we didn't have any place to store the boat. So we made the decision to trailer home, and thankfully, there were a bunch of tornadoes, but it didn't hit close to the lake. So that's thankful.
So how are you feeling about that? I mean, you were down there for almost a week, I guess.
I fished. I put 4 days into Guntersville, and I feel like I'm embarrassed by it a little bit, if I'm being completely honest, because most of the guys stuck it out. There was a couple I heard left, but most of the guys stuck it out, and I haven't heard a report yet on how the fishing was today, but you make a decision like that, and it's one that I'm able to make because I don't tournament fish for a living. So, I was able to, you just kind of, you weigh it, and is it worth destroying a brand new bass boat over trying to win a couple $1,000? Or, we didn't really know. So, and then when I called my landlady to see if she knew anyone where to store my boat, she was in her storm shelter, so that didn't help.
Yeah.
So we made the decision to come home, and when we made the decision, I told my partner Dale, I said, well, what I hope happens is we get home and nothing happens, and we don't want any of our fishing buddies down there to get hurt or their equipment destroyed or damaged or whatever. So that's what happened. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. I was looking at the results a while ago, and 25-5 is leading right now. So they caught him pretty good. I think it, even down to like 50 something place was still like 13 or 14 pounds.
Yeah. So that was our goal, was to catch a limit both days, and you never know with the weather that rolled through, but we had 2 areas that had decent fish in it. We on Tuesday we estimated we probably had about 19 pounds, and that was just with one quick pass through each area, and then we got out of there. That was on Tuesday, and then Wednesday is when all the tornadoes and stuff hit down there, and we made the decision to hightail it home. So, but the fishing was, when I first got down there, the fishing was very tough, and it was steadily getting better down there at Guntersville each day. Part of that was just, that was my first time there, so I was learning as I went. But the fish were reacting better, and they were getting fairly predictable, and I actually saw a couple spawning fish when I was down there, so that was cool.
Wow.
Yeah. There was just the front end of that was happening, I think. I mean, I'm no expert down there, but that's the impression I got. But the fish we were catching were not spawning fish; they were pre-spawn fish. But it's a neat place. I'll be back.
What were the water temps like down there?
Water temperatures when I got there were mid to upper 50s, and it was warm when I was there, and it had warmed up in the backwater areas to the mid 60s, consistent mid 60s. And the main river was about 60 when we left. So it was about right. Yeah, it was about right. So that's a neat place. When you get in an area that's got fish, it happens quick. It's pretty neat. Then you'll go for a while and nothing happens. But when you find them, we got to taste a little bit of what Guntersville is on Tuesday. So that was pretty cool.
Cool. Let me give a shout out to everybody that's on here. It's good to see all these people on here. See Phil's on here, Gary's on here, Jay Betha's on here, T Harris, Reef Robber, 23 KC, and Small Water Charters, and Todd Phelps is on here. What's up, dude? So, gosh, man, when I got the text from you this morning, I sent Ron a text. So if you guys that are just jumping on here, Ron went down to Guntersville to pre-fish for the English Choice Championship, which started today. And he went down last Thursday. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Thursday was the first day we were allowed to fish after a brief off limits period. And so I went down Thursday and fished Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah. So I know he'd been catching them pretty good and was starting to figure things out. So I sent him a text this morning early and said, good luck, man. Go crush them, basically. And he let me know that he was all the way back. And I'm like, what? So, and I knew, I saw the tornadoes and stuff this morning on the news. And for some reason, I didn't even think about that that was in the area, that was a threat. But man, I totally understand that call. I don't mess around with that stuff either, especially you didn't have a place to put your boat. It's a new boat to you. And
it's a business decision, because I've got Minnesota around the corner, and I couldn't afford to not have a boat. That would have cost me 10 times anything I could have won in the tournament. So,
and you don't know when. I was going to say, you don't know when the way things are right now. If your motor got crushed or something, I mean, it could be 6 months before you get a new motor. There's things that are hard to find, things that you can't just get on demand right now.
Right. The lesson learned is when we qualified for the Classic and they announced when it was, we didn't get in it right away because we weren't sure what was going on with COVID. That's in the falls when COVID was spiking, so we delayed in entering. Then we decided, let's fish it. Well, what happens is all the rental places for the fishermen, they fill up immediately. So we did end up finding a nice place to stay, but it didn't have no garage or carport or nowhere to store your goods, to store your boat. So I just didn't think about the possibility of severe weather, and then if it had just been a thunderstorm, I would have never even thought about it. But the newsmen down there were freaking out. they're like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. And they declared a state of emergency down there. I'm like, what is going on? And and the tornadoes did come through, but fortunately they didn't hit Guntersville. So it is what it is. We made a decision. We'll live with it. And it's not the end of the world. I fished today, so it was all right.
Bass Guy 1960 says the Fishers of Men National Championship is on Guntersville right now too.
Yeah, it's going out of I think Guntersville State Park. They're coming up out of the south end. They've got a similar number of boats in that tournament too.
Jeez.
Yeah. But the lake, it gets crowded out there. It was actually really crowded on Saturday. There was a high school tournament. It was really crowded. I felt like I was at home on Egypt. And to give you an example of how the bite was improving, there was about a 250 boat high school tournament put in at Goose Pond, and 10 pounds got 10th place on Guntersville. And that's pretty tough for Guntersville. Now there was another circuit at the south end where I think 28 pounds won it. But 17 pounds, I think, got top 50 in that. So 17 pounds on Guntersville is not a big deal. I'm reading Jay Beffa's Safety First. Yeah, I agree. It sucks though when you're at home and they're fishing. But my dad told me, you make the decision and nothing you can do about it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that I'm not saying, man, thank God I came home. Look what happened. I don't want that for anybody. So I'm glad I'm regretting being home.
Yeah. Cody says getting out of there was smart. I think they're having round 2 come through now.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, it's that time of year, man. It's geez, last year we had probably the least amount of tornado warnings and stuff, at least in my area that I remember. Usually I can remember being, usually I'm in the basement probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 times every spring, because we round up the posse and get down there in the basement.
Yeah.
When it gets too crazy. I'm usually out on the back deck with my GoPro or something, and my wife has to come up and grab me by the hoodie and pull me in the house because I love watching that stuff, man. I'd be the person that gets
watching it roll in too.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Yeah. But it seems like last spring, we didn't have very many warnings or anything that was super, super serious. And of course, our local weatherman, he's a hype master, which is good because it's a safety thing. Yeah, they all are. They sell the hell out of groceries. They all are.
But Guntersville's a good place. Or anyone listening hasn't been there, my impression is that it's probably not quite what it once was, just because of fishing pressure. But the fish are there, and I'm going back. I still got 3 days left on my Airbnb that the lady's going to honor and give to me anytime, and so I'm going back. It's pretty neat now that I've got a taste of it and I get it. And I've seen the river, and it's actually, there's a lot of different places to fish, but you can break it down fairly quick. And of course, in a place like that, there's always a lot of different things going on. It's on how you can catch them. There's a lot of different ways to catch them. So it's a pretty neat place. I'm glad I checked it off the bucket list.
Yeah, I haven't. I've never been down there. I've been to Chick. Bass Guy 1960 says today is the anniversary of the Tri-State Tornado in 1925. 3 states, 695 dead, more than 2,000 injured, on the ground for 219 miles through Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. Wow, man.
Oh, yeah. Went through Murphy, and yeah, I've seen some pictures of that. It was pretty wild. But
yeah, that's crazy.
But anyway, hey, it's a good fishing trip, and I fished today, and the fishing was pretty good today.
Well, okay, before we jump on that, let me just say, let's talk about what we're trying to do here, to why we got some people on here. So a couple of weeks ago, I was just kind of doing a sound check on here, and Ron jumped on and helped me out, and it turned into a little stream when we started talking about the local lake conditions. So later the following week, Ron shot me a text. He's like, "Hey man, how would you feel about doing a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday live stream that includes just local fishing reports and lake condition updates and things like that. So when people are wanting to go fish the lakes in the weekends, they got something to go off of." And I said, "Man, that's a great idea." So we've been kind of talking about that, and the more I thought about it, I thought, well, there's no reason that the people that are on here right now can't bring their experiences over the week to the stream and share it on here. And that way we have a broader perspective of all the different lakes, because I'm only able to fish once a week. So I'm going to have a decent report on whatever lake it is I go to. And Ron's over there on Egypt a lot. So he'll be on that, and, he'll maybe sample some other lakes, but you guys are out there fishing lots of different bodies of water. So what we're kind of trying to do is create a community of fishermen and fisherwomen that boots on the ground are out there, and they can bring all that information to the stream on, it seems like Thursday is kind of working out for us, but it's whatever day it happens to be. I think it's pretty cool if we can all kind of, like I said, create a little community and share this information and stuff. So when everybody goes out, they've got an idea of what to expect. So that was kind of me and Ron's brainstorm, but Ron kind of, got it going. So that's what we're trying to do here. So we're going to keep doing this, as, try to be consistent about it. And as things get, as things change, we will definitely.
I'll try to be on time.
Try to be on time. Hey, it's all right. I understand. And, I was trying to gather up some information from people. People are starting to get out there more. So there's more kind of pictures on Facebook and stuff, and some more reports. And my buddy, Dave Helm was out at Marion City Lake, or Marion Reservoir, I think it is. And he was out there Friday, which, that's almost a week old. But he said the water temps were 55 degrees and the water was still pretty good shape. So I would expect it to be maybe somewhere around that. It might have dropped just a couple of degrees because of this rain and stuff, and it's going to be, muddier, of course, and probably a little bit higher. But I did get that report. And we talked about Wappapello last week, because I was down there with Doug Cheatham. And it's
that was
real
a good video, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Very good video. Very informative. I enjoyed that.
I had a lot of fun because it was a place that I'd been on Wappapello on the lake part, and maybe fished a little bit of the river, but I'd never been where it was just straight up river. Well, I can't say I'd never been there, but I certainly hadn't been up that far by any means. And just to be able to throw a crankbait and it's just something moving, like we talked about, just to be able to throw something moving. It was a blast. And it was something a little bit different that I hadn't really done, just fishing creek channels with, bumping stumps with a 5XD. But man, he was dialed in on that. Cool. And that little lure retriever thing.
Check that video.
That little lure retriever thing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It's called Autotrieve. And he was telling me about it, because the way it went is I met him down there at Cherokee Pass, which is just south of Fredericktown. And we just met at a gas station. I drove down. It was about an hour drive for me, and he lives real close to that. So I jumped in the truck with him, and we had about another, 30 to maybe 40-minute drive to Holiday Landing. And so we were talking, and he was telling me about this Autotrieve thing, and I'm like, oh, whatever, it's a lure retriever. But we were getting hung up. The first time we got hung up, he pulls up there. You want to get right above the bait if you can, as close to vertical as you can, and you just clip that hound dog on your line, and then just start feeding it down. You know, just like you would a normal retriever. But the magic is that you don't have to hold. You know, like most people have an old reel with a part of a rod, and they've got their lure retriever on that. So you're trying to hold two things at once, basically. And then when you put that, it's just a little bit trickier to do that way. But this was right on the deck, and you just pull that little, it's on a retractor. So you just pull that twine up, clip it on there, drop it down. And then when you bump your lure and you get it off, you just reel it up, and you just set that thing down, and it retracts. The twine retracts back in there. You don't have to reel it in with a rod, or some people have like a chalk line thing, you know, where you have to turn it like a buoy marker, whatever you got it on. You don't have to do any of that. All you got to do is just set it down, and it automatically sucks up that cord. So you don't have to worry about tripping on anything. And, you know, like I said in that video, we really got hung up at least 30 times. And, you know, like you do the math, a $6 or $7 crankbait, if it's just a Strike King 5XD, and if it's a Lucky Craft or a Mega Bass, you know, you really start amplifying how much money you save. But that thing worked pretty dang good. I was impressed with it. So
if that guy he knew what he was doing. You could tell he'd fished there once or twice.
Yeah,
fished that way once or twice. He was pretty dialed into what he liked to do, and that was enjoyable to watch that. And it was pretty cool all the way around. Really good video. Very informative.
Yeah, it was fun. That river, it was about a foot above winter pool, and it just looked like a place that I wouldn't take my boat by myself. It just wasn't brave enough to maybe do that. Now having said that, I would probably try it now. Well, not now because it's really, really high, but if I wanted to go back next winter or something by myself, I would probably be okay with doing it, because I was kind of paying attention to how it laid out, although it's going to change every year, especially when the water gets up high. But I kind of had an idea of where to slow down and where you could run. There were several points where there were little islands, and then there were channels that looked like you could go one of three ways, and only two of them had more than a foot of water on them. That's the part that kind of made me nervous. You know, that's where the local can really zip around the river. And,
sure.
You know, like a lot of rivers, you can kind of read the channel. You know, it goes, and then you see the high bank over here, and that's your bend. And then you just kind of casually come out of that bend, and it usually runs straight across the flat section. And then you'll see another bend over there on the other side. You know, those rivers are a little bit easier to run, but when you got a lot of backwater and little creek channels and islands and stuff, it's kind of tricky reading those rivers. But yeah, it was fun, man. It was a good time. But it's up several feet. I want to say, I just read the river report. It's at 368.15 as of 7 o'clock. And
what's
on
pool
the 14th,
over there?
Well, now that I don't know. I want to say guys on here, I know Phil that was on here, he fishes down there a lot. He would probably be able to tell me what full pool is, summer pool. But on the 14th, it was 366. So it's come up 2 foot, which isn't a lot, not as much as I thought it would come up.
2 foot's still a lot of water.
It is. Now Clearwater,
for our size, yeah, that's a lot. That's
Clearwater's up like 25 feet from what I saw on Facebook.
Gee, Manitli.
Yeah, but that lake really goes up. It's really
feet?
deep, 25 feet. It goes up really fast. And then they'll pull the bottom out of it too. They'll drop it down over a week or so. It'll be back down.
Do they have to, obviously there's some flood control going on there. Do they have to do a lot of stocking there? I would think there'd be missing year classes where you'd probably have some years where the spawn just doesn't really have much of a chance if the water changes that much.
Yeah, I would say you're right. The way it fluctuates. I went down there with Phil last year, and it was up pretty high. But I don't know, you know, if it's up and they keep it up for a while, you'll have a spawn. But if it fluctuates all the time, it's just no good for the fish at all.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure about that. I'm learning some of those lakes. I don't get down there enough. Okay, Doug says that Wappapello summer pool is about 355. So it's 368 right now. So 12 feet above summer pool.
13 feet.
That's rocking. Yep.
Yeah, that's some water. Of course, when I left for Guntersville, didn't we get like 3 or 4 inches of rain up here last Thursday? That day I left?
I can't remember Thursday.
I know it rained a lot right after I left. I think it rained that same day later after I'd left.
Seems like it did too.
At least it did here at Egypt.
Yeah, it did, because I was down. I was going to go to Lake of the Ozarks on that Thursday, but the forecast was really crappy. And then Friday was the same way. And then it was supposed to rain on Saturday and it didn't. And then it rained on Sunday again. So yeah, there was a little system that was moving through the area. Tom says lakes that were running between 56 and 57 are back to 52. And another lake was about 50. Okay, that's good information. So temps have dropped a little bit. So has anybody else that's on here been to any of the local lakes, or not just local lakes, any lakes that you want to give an update on?
Yeah, I'd like to hear a few. If anyone's been on 5 inches last for day, Central Missouri.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
We didn't get that much around here. I mean, it rained yesterday all day, but I didn't feel like we got more than 2 inches. I don't know. Well, you were out of town. You wouldn't know.
Yeah, I don't know how much we got. I can tell you the lake's up about a foot right now here at Egypt. But Egypt will adjust pretty quick. That's a pretty good sized spillway on there, and it adjusts pretty quick. But you could see it dropping today just from the bank line. The water temperature today, the front half of the lake was about 54, give or take a degree or two, depending on where you were at. So I only fished the second half of the day, so I didn't get back to the back half of the lake. But the front half was about 54, so which is fine, you know.
Let's see. Jay Buffa says the Bass World Sports Classic at Lake of the Ozarks started today. Jim and Denise Deal leading with 21. They're biting.
I've got to get back to the Ozarks sometime. We used to go down there all the time as a kid. We go down there once a year for family vacation. We go down there for Easter, and it was a fishing trip. We'd spend a week down there, and haven't been back in ages. Jig bite.
Yeah. Jim Dill is a crocagator guy, I do believe. Is that right, Jay? And that's somebody, another thing I was thinking about, Ron, on these fishing report streams is getting in contact with somebody like Jim Dill or Eric Prey from Table Rock, or somebody from Kentucky Lake like Mike Russell or Craig Hipsher, or somebody that's on the lake quite a bit. There's Mike Russell right there. Speak of the devil. Or speak of the angel, and trying to get them get one of those guys to come on and jump on here for like 10 minutes and just do a little Lake of the Ozarks report. So that'd be cool. I'm going to work on that between, now and next week and see if we can make some contacts like that.
Dang right.
Yeah. Jim Dill is crocagator. And those jigs are super, super popular, especially down in the Ozarks. And then that buzzbait, the crocagator buzzbait it's a legend buzzbait for sure. Okay, so Mike says Kentucky Lake is live and well. Next year will be ridiculous. Yeah,
it's good to hear.
It's good to hear. I think it's based on the BFL results from the last BFL. I was impressed by the numbers. I mean, there were a lot of limits brought in, just good. It was a solid, it wasn't like 2 or 3 or 4 people really caught them and then everybody else had 10 pounds. It started from the top and it was just a steady transition.
Narrow weights.
Yeah. Good. A lot of 15, 14, 13 pound sacks. And it was a nice curve. It's a steady curve. Yeah. There's a lot of 15-inch fish in there now. So that's a good positive sign. If we could just get some grass back. Just need some grass back there. Yeah, Jay says Jim Dill at Lake of the Ozarks, Pete Winters at Table Rock, both have great reports. Yeah, that's right. They do the YouTube channel thing. And I fished with Pete Winters in a BFL last year. So maybe that's a possibility. I still have his phone number. He can be slightly grumpy, but I'm sure I can maybe talk to him and see what he thinks. It's a great way for them to also come on and talk about the products that they use there locally, which is kind of cool. Sure. Some of the stuff we don't see around here, but we may be missing something that will work around here as well. Yeah. Phil says the Crocodile head knocker. Well, wrong one. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, while you're scrolling through the comments, I'm going to excuse myself for about 3 seconds. I'm going to go grab my charger for this iPad.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, Jeremiah, he says he has a tournament on Egypt next weekend. Looking forward to some updates. Yeah, we will be, like we talked about, Lakes. Ron has been out of town at Guntersville all week. So he was able to get out there for half a day, but he typically fishes the lake 4 or 5 times a week. So next week's update will be, a lot more detailed. And I have been fishing. I've been down at Lake of the Ozarks. I was down there for the Toyota Series 2 weeks ago. And then the week prior, or just last week, I was down there for the BFL. So I have not fished. I haven't fished around here locally, and it's been a while because we had the ice before that. And I'm just itching. I'm going to be out there Sunday and probably Tuesday. Well, it won't be Sunday, but maybe Tuesday. And I think I'm going to go over there. I'm either going to hit Cedar or I'm going to hit that Marion City Reservoir, because rumor has it, and Ron can testify to this, but that was sold. They sold it to a private individual. So
that's fact.
That's fact. Okay. So Dave, the guy that gave me the Marion City Reservoir update, said that he ran into the guy that bought it, the new owner, and asked how long it was going to be open to the public. And the guy said that he's got a gate on order and he's waiting for the gate to arrive. So sounds like it's just a matter of time.
So right now people are fishing it just because he's being nice, basically.
I think so. I think that's what's going on. But I've never been on there, and I want to go over there and try to shoot some video and at least capture a video of that lake.
It's fun. It's a fun place. I fished a few. This has been a while ago. Some club fish offs over there years past, and when you hit it right, it's fun. There's, it cycles. Those little lakes can cycle a lot if they have a bad freeze one winter or whatever. But it has periods where it has some big fish in it. It's shallow. Mr. Russell said shallow pads and whatever, but it's fun.
Yeah, I think Mike's talking about Kentucky Lake being shallow right now. And then Jay says that Mike needs to get back to painting. Mike owns Bag 5 Baits, and he's a bait painter. He's a master bait painter. Custom paints baits. Yeah. Does a really good job too. So if you guys are looking for some custom painted baits, go check out Bag 5 Baits. He does an excellent job. And good dude too. Let's see, T. Harris says Crocodile makes a great shaky head as well. I know Jay's uses the Crocodile shaky head. Let's see. Marty says Angler Choice Classic Day 1 on Guntersville, 25.5 leading, 8 bags over 25 or over 20 pounds, 305 boats in that classic. Yeah, I was looking at the spreadsheet on there, and I kept scrolling down, and I'm like, Jesus, it was like 100, 150, 200, 225, 250. It just kept going. I'm like, how many boats are in this thing?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It was fun. What was fun is pre-fishing. You run into, as big as the lake is, you run into a lot of people you knew. That was kind of fun. And when we were hightailing it out of there, ahead of the storms, there was one of the guys from the Egypt division fishing one of the bridges, and I honked at him, and he waved. He probably thought I was he probably didn't realize I was heading home, but so I'll be rooting for him. I just came in from fishing and wiping the boat down when you called and reminded me about this deal, and so I haven't had a chance to look at the names yet, but I'm a little surprised there's only 8 bags over 20 pounds because they were starting to bite. So my guess is the weather that they got Wednesday, which was, even though the tornadoes didn't hit right there, they got, I mean, it was thunderstorms and, all of that. So it must have knocked them in the head a little bit. I was anticipating a little bit more caught than that. So, but anyway.
So how did you approach it down there? I know you said you started figuring them out after a couple of days. What kind of game plan did you have?
I can, I stayed, the house that we rented was at Mill Creek, which is about mid-lake. It's about halfway between Seabold and Goose Pond. About a 15-mile, by lake, it's about a 15-mile run. So what I decided to do, there was this big tournament coming up out of Browns the same days that we had our tournament. And there's no way you can learn all of Guntersville in a week. You can't learn all of it probably in a lifetime. But so I made the decision to focus a little bit north of Goose Pond, basically down to Seabold. And then I was going to stay on basically, I guess it would be the north side of the river on the Seabold, Mill Creek, Upper Saudi side of the river. And just somewhere in there, I knew there was 5 keepers. I didn't need to fish the whole river to catch 5 keepers. And then just started the process of figuring it out. I went shallow. What I like to do for me, it's not a right or wrong way. I like to go shallow and then work my way out as I need to see, because I knew they're going shallow, but I don't, So that was my process, and I would pick a creek and start in the back and then work my way out. Well, it didn't take long to figure out. There was, for me, the lake is full of eelgrass. I mean, I don't know there weren't many places on the river that I found that didn't have eelgrass. It's everywhere. And with a lot of the fishing pressure, it gets stirred up and it floats around and it can make an area difficult to fish. But what I found, pockets that had coontail and or milfoil that were still the predominant weed instead of the eelgrass. That's where I started having some success, and then I coupled that in with the right watercolor. Some of the river was really pretty clear, and there was probably 3 foot of visibility, 4 foot. Nice green river color water, pretty clear, but some of the pockets would have some stain in it. And so when I found the right combination of that stain and that coontail or milfoil, you got bit almost every time in an area like that. And what was some of the little cuts and pockets off the river seemed to get a little bit less attention, and there were small areas that I could kind of manage, and so that was my approach, and kind of things started coming together. And once I realized how I was able to catch fish, I just started running around and looking for more within that constraint of the river. And we had 5 areas lined up to fish. 2 of them were our main areas, and then the other 3, we had some areas that we would stay clear even with the predicted rains on Wednesday. If an area got blew out or not from mud.
Uh-oh. We lost Ron. He was just getting ready to give up the juice. He'll be back on here in a minute. So Phil asked, have you guys heard of Don Caro, the originator of Crocagator? And man, that's funny. That name has come up a couple times as I was fishing down there at Lake of the Ozarks. And I didn't know him personally, but a couple of the guys I fish with knew the whole story of everything. And I know, I think Ron had passed away just a couple years ago, or Don Caro had passed away just a couple years ago. We were just talking about the owner of, no, you didn't pass away. You just disappeared for a minute. I can't hear you right now, Ron. Can't hear you. Maybe,
oh, there we go.
Oh, there you are. Hey, sounds great, man. You sound good. But but Don Caro is the originator. What's that?
I don't know if my internet had a little glitch there for a minute.
Oh yeah, the video was kind of just freezing, but we could still hear you. So yeah, Don Caro, that we were talking about, the original owner of Crocagator, and that like I was saying, his name come up a couple times. It was the guy I fished with at on day 2 of the Toyota series. His name was Nicky Parsons, and he was from Bull Shows. Really nice guy. He was talking about him. So the guy's really well known. That's all I know about him. Let's see what else we got here. Let me scroll down here real quick. So as far as Cedar, have you heard anything about any other lakes, Ron, lately? I mean, have you heard any little trinkets or nuggets or anything?
Not a lot, because I've been gone for a week. I had a little bit about Grassy, and there's been some good fish caught down at Grassy. Now it's the right time of year for Grassy. It's the right time of year for every lake, but I have heard specific reports on Grassy. And
what was the water temps over there?
Of course, about 50 as of last week, low 50s. And the guy sent me a text, and he kind of broke it down front to back, and I honestly don't remember exactly what he told me, but it was around 50. And a little bit, it gets a little warmer in the back, of course. Grassy is a lake that withstands some runoff, and it doesn't get blown out as easily as some of the other lakes around here. So, if we get too much rain and stuff gets too muddy, Grassy tends to maintain some reasonable water in it, as far as not getting too muddy. But there's been some fish biting over there. Cedar has to be going. I mean, there's got to be some fish being caught out of Cedar. I mean, there always is this time of year. There has been forever. So
I've seen some pictures of guys holding up some pretty nice fish, and they didn't say where they're from.
Yeah, but
it sure looked like Cedar in the background. Not 100%, but yeah, it's got to be. It's that time, like you said. It always gets good over there right now. That first little group of dumb bass starts moving up and rooting around.
Yeah, down at Cedar, the creeks, Clay Lick, there in front of Little Cedar, right there at the boat ramp at Pomona. If you go to the back there, that can all be good. The backs of all those creeks, it ought to be happening.
Todd Phelps wants to know, what was the water clarity at Egypt like today?
I was on the front half of the lake today, fished about 4 or 5 hours, and the main lake has a little color to it, like you would expect after all this. And then in the creeks, the little necks, as you go back, they're really varied. There's a lot of different watercolor, and there's some of the backs of the necks that have a little bit more runoff where it's very muddy, even on the front. And then there's some other little necks that are a little bit more controlled. And I fished a little bit of all of it this afternoon. And the watercolor that was controlled is where I caught my fish. And I had a good day. I didn't have any problem getting bit. Fish are still a little grouped up over here. It seems you'll go for a while and not catch anything, and then you'll hit a little stretch and you might catch 3 or 4. And the little fish showed back up. I don't know where they've been for the last 2 months. The little fish showed back up, and that makes it fun when you're getting more bites. But I think I had 6 overs today and I think 19 fish. So,
wow, that's a really good day.
It was fun. Yeah, it was a solid day. But that I didn't do as well in the super muddy water. I did catch a few, but the water that was not, just one notch back, you could still be dirty, but just one notch back. And the water's falling already. You could see it on the bank. The water's dropping. So, but you catch them in the backs of pockets. There's fish in the backs of the pockets on Egypt.
So are you able to catch them on moving baits now pretty easily?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was throwing moving baits most of the day. I did slow down for a little bit, and I did get bit. Because I just wanted to check to see, basically I'll tell you, it's no secret. Anyone that knows when I'm fishing slow, it's that little black jig, and they swam off. I didn't set the hook. They swam off with it 2 or 3 times, and I put it down. So chatterbait, I can't do anything about it. That's the other bait I was throwing. When they eat it, they eat it. You can't not catch those fish. So it was pretty simple. It's just basic, simple spring fishing. And I've been looking forward to that because with all the goofy weather we've had over the last month, this bite got delayed a little bit, but things were pretty normal today, which was nice to see.
Yeah. And that little black jig, me and Ron did a video and I dropped it Monday, and he really gave up the juice. Did a great job of letting the cat out of the bag on a couple things, especially that man shadow. I had several comments about that man shadow. Old schoolers are like, yeah, I remember when that first came out and blah, blah, blah.
Hey, I want to let you know that man shadow caught fish on Guntersville this last week.
Is that right?
And when we got into those pockets of clear water, my partner was actually the one throwing it. And as you would move in and out of these cuts, the water clarity would change as you went back. But when we would hit the pockets of clear water, he was throwing that thing out there, and it was like they'd never seen one before. It was kind of cool. We didn't catch any big fish on it, but we caught some fish pretty easy on it. It was pretty cool. I'm sure a fluke or something would have worked too, but I know I bet you $1 my partner was the only one on the river throwing a shadow. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They ate it.
I bet so.
They ate it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if he would have won the tournament, if you guys would have won the tournament or just did really good, you wouldn't be able to buy one forever.
Probably not.
Probably. Because that's such a secret.
I don't know if I would have told anyone that's what we wanted it on, but
yeah. Caught him on a whopper plopper.
Yeah, that's it. I caught
Larry Lee
fish
says a
on
water
buzzbait and a whopper plopper down there pre-fishing.
Did you really?
Yeah, there was a little topwater bite going for a little in a couple areas. Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
Well, look, I say a couple areas, I don't know the lake, so there's probably a million areas, but I had a big one break me off on a buzzbait pre-fishing.
Okay. Wait a minute.
So.
That brings up something. I need your help out there in YouTube land. Me and Ron may not remember this, but I think we had a little bet on who could catch the first topwater fish. I don't think there was any wager or anything on it, but it was just kind of one of those things that I mentioned. And now here's what I need to know. Does it count when you travel 5-6 hours south and catch one on the topwater, or is it just whoever catches the first fish on topwater?
I'll concede, and we'll keep that to Illinois or Southeast Missouri. 3 weeks ago, you were chopping holes in ice on your pond, so not really fair.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think that's the only way to handle this.
Yeah.
So, Larry Lee says water temps were on Table Rock were 59 yesterday, where I was. That's good to know. I'm going to be fishing a BFL down there.
Pretty good.
April, though. Yeah, that is pretty good. I know they've been catching them down there. Really, really good. And then let's see. Gary says Don Caro was a great guy. Jay knew him well. That's right. That's another person that Jay's told me about him too. I have a problem remembering. I don't have the greatest memory in the world, so which is kind of nice because every day is a new day. Jay wants to know.
It's funny. Let's see. Am I running two up? No, I've just got I've got John boat, but no, I've just got the one fiberglass boat. So,
which by the way, tomorrow, me and Ron did a walkthrough of his brand new Vexus, and I got that video together. A lot of audio editing. It took me a lot long. It's a pretty straightforward video. It's in his garage, and he's breaking down the boat, which I've said it before. I'm pretty impressed with that boat. But a lot of audio editing, a lot of little spikes in the audio that I had to chop and pull down the gain. And that video took forever just because of that. But that's going to be out tomorrow. I'm going to drop that in the morning. So if you guys want to see all the nice features on a Vexus VX21, that video will be out there at 6 a.m. in the morning. So check it out. It's a little lengthy, but I kept it the way it was for the most part, just because Ron was really breaking everything down, and nothing's repeated in it. That's just how long it took to go through the boat and show all the features and stuff. And I forgot to put that pickle forked front end in there, unfortunately, which is a really cool
I've got something else feature too that this morning it's got those air ride seats in it. And so I was like, all right, I got to figure this out. So the boat comes with a little hand pump where you pump up the seats and the pedestal underneath it. And I figured that out this morning, and I didn't realize it, but the cushions on the seat actually expand when you pump that thing up. I was like, man, I've been missing a really soft seat to sit in this whole time. It was pretty neat. So I got that figured out now. So I'm proud of the boat, and I appreciate you doing the video. And a lot of people, of course, it's new, so everyone, a lot of people just they haven't seen one. A lot of people up front. So I had probably 2 or 3 people a day down there at Guntersville take a look at it and ask me questions. And but yeah, so I appreciate you doing that video.
Yeah. Thanks for letting me do that. That was fun. It's a cool boat, and I got to fish out of it after we did the video, and it rides really nice. It fishes really well. It stands up. You're up about, what'd you say? You're up about 4-6 inches taller than your Ranger?
I'm up. Yeah, it's rough 4 to 6 inches higher than your typical bass boat. I came out of a 521Z Ranger. And I tell you, when you notice it is when you lean over the side. You know how you catch a fish and you go sit down in the driver's seat and you reach over and you grab the fish. you notice it then because you can barely reach down to the water to grab the fish.
Yeah.
Which is, it's no big deal. If you're in a tournament, your buddy's going to have the net anyway, but that's when you really notice it. And I have noticed we saw some spawners down at Guntersville, and I was able to see the fish better just because I was a little higher up. And we're in this one pocket, and we're, it's a new to us pocket. We never been in there. We're just going through it real quick. And all of a sudden I yell at Dale, "Holy crap." And he's like, he thought I was going to hit something with the boat. And there was a 6-pounder on it. Well, they weren't on the bed yet. There was a 6-pounder and a 2-pounder, the male and the female. And he was courting the female, and he was nipping at her, and it was kind of cool to sit there and watch it. And so we watched that for a little bit. They wanted nothing to do with us. They didn't care less we were there. Yeah, you could really see sitting up higher like that.
You see that comment there from your?
Hey, Hammy, I'm fishing the Grassy tournament with DJ. So save me a few.
Doug wants to know, did you try spinnerbaits on Wappapello the other day? Let me think here if I did throw a spinnerbait. I don't think I did, Doug. I caught a fish, and I had a couple bites on that Cumberland Pro Procaster jig in the naked crawl. And I threw a rock crawler a little bit because I was trying to see. Doug Cheatham was throwing the 5XD in. It was kind of a lime chartreuse color.
Parrot color?
I don't even know. I don't know what color it was exactly. I went to Academy. I went to Academy after work today, and it's not a color that they have in the store. I'm sure I haven't looked at Tackle Warehouse to see if you can get it, but it was a real bright color, and it was definitely drawing more strikes. And the 5XD that I had was kind of like a pearl chartreuse sexy shad or something. And I still got some bites on it, but they definitely were wanting that louder color. And so the only thing I had that was kind of loud like that was a rock crawler. But a rock crawler only gets down around that 9-foot zone, 9-10-foot zone. On a real long cast, you might hit 11 with like 8-pound test, 10-pound test, but I was still on 12-pound test. So I was having problems staying on that creek channel where the 5XD, as it rolled off, it would just keep digging down. The rock crawler would start to dig down, and then it would come out into open water because it just didn't have the lip to keep it going down that channel. So I wasn't hitting the right stumps with it. I had the right cut. Well, I had a brighter color. So I threw the rock crawler a little bit, and then I threw that River Seas. It's called a Goon, which is a pretty cool crankbait. Actually, it's got a real wide bill. It's almost got a bill like the old Fat Free Shad, but it's got a 1-knocker in it. It sounds like it's got a tungsten bead in it or something. It reminds me of the Spro, like the Deep Diving John, not the Little John. Maybe it's the Little John Deep or whatever, that bigger crankbait. It's got that real soft tungsten 1-knocker sound in it. That sucker came through wood really good, but it was a little bit, I caught a couple fish on it. I probably should have stayed with it, but I was kind of experimenting around to see if they would bite something other than the crankbait that Doug had. So I threw the 3 crankbaits, and then I threw the Cumberland Pro jig. And I think that there wasn't any reason to throw anything else. Once Doug was doing what he was doing, he was pretty dialed in. I thought, it's a crankbait bite, and I like I said in the video, I hadn't really had a chance to throw a crankbait like that. So I'd been catching plenty of fish on a jig, Lake of the Ozarks. We caught them pretty good on a jig. So I was just taking advantage of the opportunity to catch a fish on a deep diving crankbait. So yeah, that's kind of a long answer.
Hey, when you're in Rome, don't order Chinese, man.
That's right.
That guy was dialed in. That was fun to watch.
Fun.
Yeah,
it was fun to watch.
Knew what he was doing and knew what he was doing on that river.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll get back down there with him again too, because I want to start fishing. I always head your way, when I go fishing, and I want to start heading to some Missouri lakes like Clearwater and Wappapello and some of those lakes like that. Let's see. Martin wants to know how many boats were there on Egypt today.
It wasn't hardly anyone out there today. It was nasty. It was spitting rain, and it was kind of cold. Truck said 48 degrees when I got in it. So like I said, the water temperature was holding pretty steady, about 54-ish. I never went up to the golf course, but at this time of year, I'm not too worried about getting close to the power plant unless I just think there's fish there. But
yeah,
but it was.
Todd said he's going to try Cedar out this weekend. Good luck, Todd. I don't know if I'll be able to get over there Sunday. I really want to get over there Sunday, and if not, I'm going to go somewhere Tuesday, because this is that time of year when, like we spoke about earlier, it's just really good. It can be really, really good.
It's time.
Yeah.
The moral of the story right now is if a guy can go fishing, go fishing, because it's just that time of year. And you could probably, it's that time of year too, where however you like to catch fish in a relatively shallow manner, I'm sure a crankbait guy, a square bill guy can go out and hammer them. A spinnerbait guy, if he wants to go out and catch, he can do that. The jig fish or a pitching bait. There's a lot of different things a guy could do, so you could find something that fits your wheelhouse. Just go fishing. You get a chance, go fishing.
Hey, I think everybody agrees with our decision to keep it regional on the first topwater bite. Jay says it needs to be in the same region, and Bass Guy 1960 says that's like some who can catch the biggest bass, an angler in Texas or an angler in Illinois. And then
I can't claim the prize.
No, but I got a feeling you're out there a little more than I am. You're going to have probably the first opportunity, unless I time it just right. I'll be throwing that frog. Next time I go out, when I go out Tuesday, I will have a frog rod, because it's when that water hits.
I think a frog would catch fish right now.
Yep. When that water hits 52, 53.
Those flooded mats of the water willow at Egypt, we don't have much coontail and stuff, but those flooded mats, the water's really up in it now, and the lakes come up, so fish go to the bank, and then when the lake drops, they pull back. Well, a couple of those fish I caught today were on that inside edge of those clumps. That's where they pull back to when the lake goes up and then comes back down. And that frog I know that frog would catch fish, but I was just too lazy to tie one on. Look at Hammy, March 3rd with the top water.
Dang, he's the big winner.
Yeah.
We already saw that one. I've had some pretty good days really, really early on the frog this time of year, kind of before you would even think about throwing one. And this is that time of year when things start getting more complicated, because like in the winter, you got a spoon, a jerkbait, a jig, an A-rig. It's pretty straightforward. But now is that time when you start transitioning over to all those extra rods that have been collecting dust. You got your chatterbait, you got your thinking about frog, topwaters. This is when you can have 14 rods out on the deck of your boat if you're not careful.
Yeah, the fish are moving. So, but I enjoy this. Today, I really enjoyed today. And I really needed today after, coming home. I felt like with my tail between my legs, running from them tornadoes, I needed a little pep talk from the fish, I guess, or whatever. Yeah. And after I caught a few today, I forgot all about it. So
that's what it takes. Go back out and give your home like a big hug. Cody says he's thinking about getting to the BFL on Table Rock in April. He said he's locked in with a link for Lake of the Ozarks BFL in September, trying to get a boat link for Truman in June. Yeah, cool, Cody. I hope you jump in that Table Rock one. They're back to back because they canceled the first BFL in Table Rock due to ice. So the one that's April, I want to say it's April 17th, is a Saturday, and they put that canceled one on the back side of it. So the Sunday there'll be the other one, which is kind of cool. You know, I kind of like that idea. I mean, it's nice to have tournaments spaced out. You got something to look forward to, but at the same time, for financial reasons, it's kind of nice to have them back to back. You know, you got one drive. You're not making that trip twice. You're not pre-fishing twice.
Oh, absolutely.
You know? Hotel.
Makes it easier on the working man, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of nice.
Time off work. And
that's what was really nice about that Toyota series. Although it's more expensive, it was, you know, everybody fished Thursday and Friday. And I like that. I like a 2-day tournament with the possibility of making a third day, because you kind of get, you know, in the groove. Of course, we'd pre-fished for a day or two, but the water was so cold, you know, for that tournament. Water was like 34 to 36 degrees. I mean, a lot of people couldn't even really fish. It was solid. Yeah. You couldn't really even pre-fish in the morning, you know, until about 10, 11 o'clock. Things would start loosening up. But I like the idea of having 2 days to fish. It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
Jay Beffa says, I know someone that can match that bait with a little extra bag 5 baits. That's right. He can match pretty much whatever. All right, Dave. Dave's out. He's got to go back to work. He was probably on his little short break. Yeah, Dennis, he says this is a good idea. Get local fishing reports, water temps, and clarity water level. That's exactly what we're trying to do. And like I said earlier, next week we'll both have been out a little bit more. So we'll have some more current information on some more lakes. And then I'm hoping that people can send updates, reports to Gabe Montgomery Fishing or 10 Horse Monty on Facebook or 10 Horse Monty 6 on Instagram. Send me your fishing reports. And that way, when we get on here next Thursday, I'd like to make a little running list of the lakes and have something to go off of. And then if that person can even get on the live stream and discuss it just a little bit more, that'd be awesome.
That's a great idea. Kind of streamline this. We give out more information in a shorter amount of time.
Right.
And
right.
That's a good idea. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So if you guys are out there and you get out on the water, shoot me a fishing report. We can all share.
And if you want to send me a waypoint or anything, that'd be fine.
Waypoints are welcome as well. Yes. Pictures of lures, baits, whatever.
Yeah.
So Chris says he's looking at taking his teenage boy over to Kincaid on Sunday. Only been on the lake once last year, mostly exploring. Anyone have any updates or suggestions? Chris, the only thing I've heard about Kincaid is it's really, really muddy, and it's been that way for a couple weeks. So if I was going over there, I would probably be throwing something that's got a lot of presence, like a big spinner bait, a chatterbait. Also flipping the fit. I guess what I'm getting at is there's going to probably, if the fish are biting, they're going to be up pretty shallow. I would think.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be covering. I would be looking kind of in the backs of some of the coves and stuff. Just any kind of hard cover, like wood. Definitely key on some wood if you can find some wood.
Yeah. If you've never been there before, if you launch there across from the marina, what's the name of the boat, the main boat ramp there at the marina?
I think it's called Mount Joy.
Mount Joy?
I'm pretty sure.
There's a main public boat ramp right there across from the marina on the east side of the lake. And if you run out of there, there's like a wave break thing that they have set up, and you go through that, then run straight north. If you look at a map, you'll see an arm that runs straight north, basically. And then there's some little cuts off of that, and then off to the right of that, they have that, what do they call it, Paul Ice or whatever.
Yeah.
But that arm that runs straight north and south has has some pockets as you go up it on the left, and there's some good rocky points and stuff that guard that, and there's good weeds there that should help control some watercolor. If you've never been there and you're just looking for an easy place to try and put something together, it wouldn't be a bad place to start, and you could kind of gauge what the watercolor. You probably have a chance to see some different watercolor in there, and kind of start to see what happens. But I would think a guy ought to be able to catch fish over there, like you said, on a spinnerbait or chatterbait, and
flipping something.
I think you'd have some
shallow.
Success.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, your clearest water, Chris, is going to be by the dam, and your dirtiest water is going to be all the way on the other end of the lake. There's a Johnson Creek that comes in there, and it's got some pretty significant drainage coming in there. In fact, when we had,
that's probably chocolate milk.
That's probably very chocolate. When we have Sean Hurst on there this week on the live stream, he was talking about how they kind of tried to do some soil erosion control in that area, and they even had kind of flirted with the ideal of building, an earth dam across that and just basically cutting that whole creek off because there's so much sediment that comes in there. Yeah. So yeah, I would just move around, and that area that Ron's talking about is really good back there by Paul Ice. A lot of that it doesn't get quite the wind as some of the other parts of the lake. So that typically warms up, just a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So good luck. Bass Guy 1960 says his first tournament of the season is Saturday. Going to be high, cold, and muddy up here. The added fun of 29 degrees weather. I know, man. I saw 30-degree lows sometime coming up really soon.
Saturday morning.
Since
I came home, we decided to jump in that USA Bass in here on Egypt. We're going to fish that Saturday since now that we're home, might as well. And I think they're forecasting low 30s here Saturday morning. But I think it's supposed to be 60 by the afternoon. So that's not going to hurt anything, I don't think, for very long.
Yeah, Phil, that doesn't count at all. Not even slightly. He said he caught a frogfish in February in Florida.
That's cheating more than I was.
Yeah, that's even further south, man. Cody, 17th and 18th. Here it is. Let's see what this says. How do you think the fish will react with a cold rain and overnight lows around freezing this weekend? What's your opinion on that, Ron?
I don't think they're going to change a whole lot. There's the Saturday is supposed to be 60 degrees. Sunday is supposed to be a little bit warmer with sunshine. There was some fish, to give you an example of how some of the fish are set up. Of course, we've had a lot of rain, so the water going up and down. But I noticed a couple times today, I made a couple casts and it wasn't real accurate and landed, maybe 2 feet from the bank, and you'd spook a fish. You'd see the weight go out. So a couple times I had to throw my bait up on the bank and then drag it in quietly. And then you get a bite 2 to 3 turns of the handle. When you get fish that are reacting to a bait that close to the bank, they're not going back out to the creek channel just because it's 32 in the morning. Yeah. They may not bite for an hour until the sun gets up, especially in that dirtier water, but it's, and I don't think we're supposed to have any more rain this weekend here. Now, if you're somewhere where you're going to get a bunch of cold rain, I don't know where Jay's at. Cold rain itself could knock them in the head a little bit, but I don't think they're going far this time of year. I mean, they can't swim back and forth. They got a job to do this spring, and that's make babies, and they know that. So
well, they were waiting for the daylight savings time to kick in, and once we rolled our clocks forward, that's the sign to start spawning cycle.
That's why I was late. Seriously, that's why I was wiping down my boat. I came in from fishing. I was wiping down my boat, And I came home. It gets dark at, I don't know, it's what, 6:30, 6:45 right now. So I was wiping down my boat, and I didn't realize that it was 7:30 yet. And then you called, and it's like, hey, you remember the thing? I was like, oh, yeah. I didn't realize it was 7:30 yet.
I thought you said you were still on the lake. I couldn't hear what you said. I thought you said, I'm still on the lake.
Oh no, I just come home from the lake, and had just got done wiping my boat down because it was soaking wet, and it rained all on and off all day. Just that drizzly rain all day.
Look at this from Gregory right here. Kincaid finally turned back on since the unthawing. It's been tough out there until 4 days ago. Frog. He mentioned frog. Interesting.
There you go, bud.
Gary wants some waypoints on Egypt. And Todd says he was at Cedar 2 weeks ago, 42 to 48 degrees, 3 foot visibility. Didn't see any sign of a shad kill.
That's good.
Paul Ice Ramp at Kincaid. Gary's talking about good wood. Bass Guy 1960 says, I'll be on Lake Sarah up in Effingham.
I fished that a long time ago. My dad's old bass club had a deal there, and I fished with him, and actually the club caught some fish there. It's a little place, but we caught some fish.
Yeah, Jay, Bass Guy says he's already got a rattling jig, a chatterbait, and a single thumper Colorado spinnerbait tied on. That's a good place to start.
Heck yeah. You're covered.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only thing I would throw into that is a crankbait, just like a DT6.
Yeah, I guarantee a guy could have caught him on a square bill today.
Jay said he's in the St. Louis area.
Are you supposed to get more rain up there this weekend or something? I was hoping that was over with for a while. I've gotten to be an expert at wiping my boat down.
Yeah, Mike Russell says the Frittsside, and that's kind of what I was wanting to show you guys right now. It's a good segue into that. So, Bass Guy was talking about a jig, a chatterbait, and a single thumper, but another bait that's real important this time of year, and this is something that I threw this down on Lake of the Ozarks, is the Frittsside. This is the Berkeley Frittsside. This is the actual 7, and they make it in the 7, and they make it in, they make it in a 5, and then they got the 5 biggin, which is just a little bit wider body. I mean, here's the.
Is there a 9 in that bait also?
I think there is a 9. Yes, I don't have any of the 9s. I've just got the 7s, the regular 5, and then the biggin. And this is a flat side crankbait. Let me take one of these out so we can look at them.
We caught a few fish on that at Guntersville. When it was really tough, they would bite that. But then as the bite improved, we were able to catch them on other stuff.
Yeah, Jay says they've got a 5, 7, and a 9.
Reminds me of the old pose.
It does got that look, doesn't it?
Yeah.
They're a little bit hard to get out of the package. And they're kind of hard to find right now. Academy had a few left, and I grabbed some. I'm scared I'm going to poke them. Oh, here's some scissors. I want to rip this open, but
I ordered some of those from Tackle Warehouse, and then I was going to order a couple more. And when I went back to order them, they were out temporarily, and you know how it is right now. Sometimes you get stuff, sometimes you can't.
It's hard to buy something that's red too right now.
Yeah. And while you're getting that bait out of the package, one thing about Guntersville is, it's red. You gotta wear red underwear to catch fish on Guntersville. And we ended up catching our fish not on red. And I swear, I think we were getting fish to bite because we were not throwing red, just because so many people were throwing it. We were, it really seemed to make a difference.
Yeah, all those colors work. Red just got so popular.
Yeah.
And red's really hard to find.
Red just does work. I mean, I don't know what it is about it, but it does work.
So let's look at this crankbait now. Now that I finally got it out here. I should have just started with the scissors first of all. This is the this is the 7, and this is the Lone Ranger color. So it's got that. It's hard to see actually. I don't have the best lighting in here, but it's kind of a chartreuse. Let me see if I can turn this lamp on. Let's see what this.
They got a black back on it.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks good.
You can see it a little bit better with that. There you go. That brings out the color a little bit more. Yeah. So it's got that black back, and it's interesting. You can see how that line doesn't go all the way to the tail. And there's a reason for that. And Mike Russell is kind of a crankbait junkie, and he could tell you, and he's told me, but like I mentioned earlier, I have trouble retaining knowledge until I hear it multiple times. So I will.
Does it help create some flash?
I think it might be, you get that going.
Yeah. The contrast.
But I fished these down at Lake of the Ozarks. I mean, I fished them. I fished them for about a year or so, and they're a little fish catcher. They've got, so the thing is they cast really, really well. Most balsa, the action mimics the balsa crankbait, right? And balsa's like throwing a biscuit. So it's a pain in the butt to throw. So this is plastic, but it throws really, really good, casts really, really well. But it's got similar action to that. Now, one thing that I noticed from throwing this last weekend or 2 weekends ago, I threw it quite a bit, is it's a really slow rise. Balsa,
yes,
when you hit something and you let off of it, it comes up pretty fast. You think of like a shad wrap or something, it jumps up pretty quick. This, when you hit something, it's kind of stays there and just kind of slow floats up, which to me is a great idea when the water's cold, because it hits that cover and it stays in that fish's face. I remember several years ago, I was fishing with a guy on Kentucky Lake, and the water temperature was in the mid 40s, and he had taken a bunch of shad wraps and drilled a hole right here where this disc is and put a BB in there. So when he hit a rock, it floated up super, super slow. Same thing with adding, wrapping wire around the front hook or something to slow that down. So this already has that action built in it, which is really cool for this cold water. So not only is it flat side, you get that flat side action, that balsa action, but you get that slow rise that keeps it in the fish's face longer. And the Berkeley Fusion hooks, they're pretty decent hooks. I mean, it's pretty sharp. So this is definitely a bait that is going to be tied on right now for the next couple of months. Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is, like I said, this is the Lone Ranger color. This is their, I think it's called Candy Apple Crawl. If I got that right. Yeah, Candy Apple Red Crawl. So it's a crawl pattern. It's got that, it's pretty consistent belly. It's got the black back on it. And then the other color that I really like is the honey shad. I've still got it in the package. I can actually cut it out and look at it. I got to get all these out anyway. I'm going to fish them. If I leave them in the package, I don't ever fish them. I'll just put them up with the rest of the stuff that's on the package. But I'll take these out, put them on the boat. But the honey shad is the one I was catching them on at Lake of the Ozarks. It's just a really good color. And there's a story behind that too. Let me turn this light on. Keep that out. Yeah, there you go. But it's got that back too. You know, that the back just stops right there around the tail. Gives it that extra little flash. Great bait. Let me show you that crawl again real quick. You can see it better now.
Mm-hmm.
It's got these. It does. It'll catch them. It's weighted. You know, you notice there's two weights. You got one on the front of the hanger and one on the back of the hanger. It gives it better balance. There's a reason for that. Everything on this crankbait is done with a reason. And I got one more color here. Go ahead and cut this open. This is a Midnight Pearl.
I still throw David Fritz, you know, obviously one of the best crankbait fishermen in the world.
Sure.
But he had a crankbait reel that Bass Pro put out years ago. And it's kind of mimics the old Lew's BB1. And I still throw that David Fritz crankbait reel. That's a good looking crankbait there.
Yeah. It is a good looking one. It's more of a, remember the color of this. It was called Midnight Pearl. And that's the big one too. It's a little bit bigger than the 5. It's a little bit fatter. Now I haven't thrown the big one yet. I don't know how it casts, but the 5 casts great. You can launch you can launch the 5.
Let me see the big. Does the big one always come with the short bill?
I don't know if they have a 7. This is a 5. The big one 5. I don't know if they have a big one 7 or not. Jay might know. Not really sure. But it's still supposed to get down 2 to 5 foot. And
what pound test were you throwing that on at the Ozarks?
I always throw it on 12-pound test. I throw it on 12-pound fluorocarbon. I use that for. I've thrown it on 10, and gosh, it works. But if I'm cranking some kind of wood, I'm kind of 10s. I don't know. 12 just I feel a little bit safer. Yeah, even my 5XDs and 6XDs and 10XDs, I throw those on 12. Now 10XD I might bump up to 15. Might bump up to 15. I don't throw a 10XD all that much, but now the 5X and basically everything from a square bill up to a 6XD, I'm throwing on 12-pound 12. Yeah, unless I'm fishing. If I'm really cranking, say something like Wren Lake, where I know I'm not really going to need to get that square bill very deep, I'll move up to 15 or 17 or something. Some lake like that. But I like that 12 because it works good with anything. I could throw rock crawlers on that. It does fine. It doesn't really limit the depth. Now, of course, if you want to get really, really deep, you can throw 8-pound test on there. But I don't feel comfortable throwing 8-pound test on a bigger crankbait. A shad wrap or something. When I'm throwing that on spinning rod, that's 8-pound test. But you're throwing it on it's just a different setup. It's not a big old shad wrap super light. You almost got to have that lighter line to get it out there, or I do. I know Jay says he throws them on 20, but he's throwing like the size 8 or the size 9. The bigger shad wrap, like the size 5. I like that on the 8-pound test, but I certainly wouldn't feel safe throwing it on anything different. Let's see. I saw something here from Mike. Let me bust out some of these comments, and we've been on here about an hour and a half. So let me just go through these comments here, and we'll wrap this up. Bass Guy 1960 says there's also a Frittsside 5 Junior. I did not know that. Yeah, Mike's breaking down all this stuff. Should have had Mike on here to kind of talk about that a little bit, and maybe we'll do that next stream. He can jump on here or something. Josh says he caught some a few days ago on the OG Slim, the Wappapello OG Slim. That's another reason we need Mike on here. He knows all about that bait too. Bass Guy says he's got the one knocker tied on.
Heck yeah.
Shelly says, do you know if Mad Dog Baits from Litchfield, Illinois, still in business. They used to make a real cool, unique head style spinner bait. Do you know of that, Ron?
No, no, that's a little bit out of my area, so I don't know. Got my attention on spinner baits. I love throwing this. I was one of the last guys in the world to switch from taking some time off my spinner bait to putting a chatterbait down. I'm an old spinner bait guy.
Yeah.
And but no, I don't know.
Okay, there's the answer right there. Thanks, Bass Guy. Mad Dog is still in business, but has bought by a guy over around Richland County or in that vicinity. They have a Facebook page. Cool. Yeah, I mean, you guys probably already knew that before I even read the comment. A little bit backed up. Mike says the Frittsside has the WC profile. Let's see. Up in northern Illinois, best bait right now is a lipless crankbait in a red color. We caught 30 plus 3+ pounders. That's pretty good, Max.
What time am I meeting you at the boat ramp? 30 plus 3 pounders. Wow.
Okay. No kidding.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm curious where that is in northern Illinois.
Jeremiah says the old poles would jerk your shoulder out of socket when they thump so hard.
And maybe that's what's wrong with my shoulder. I still got a lot of those old poles. I like them. Old cedar, made out of cedar wood, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a few of them too. Yeah, Jay says, Mike Russell, wonder who painted those. Yep. That's why we need to get Mike on here sometime. They have a Lone Ranger, but also a chartreuse blackback as well. And then Max says, Gabe, I'll be on Lake of Egypt next week. I may be over there sometime soon. I'm not quite sure.
It's pretty easy right now. At least it was today. I don't think it's going to change a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, Mike's dropping signs. The action is because of patent disc weights on the belly lowers the fulcrum point lower. There you go.
Okay.
6 cents flat 75 is a good flat side crankbait as well. I threw at Lake of the Ozarks, I threw the 1.5 flat. It gets down there around 7 foot. I was throwing a rock crawler and I wasn't getting bit. And I fished a lot of good looking flat type banks with a drop off of it. And wasn't getting bit, so I switched up to that 1.5 flat and still didn't get bit, but it does have it's got a way different action. So I was just thinking, well, maybe the fish are there, they just want to see something else. Mike says Honey Shad is an updated version of the old Bagley Gray Ghost. That's right. See, that's another thing that he told me and I forgot already.
Good old Bagley. Old Bagley catch fish right now, I bet you.
Yeah. I like the flat A too. And a little bit cold this time.
The bomber flat A?
Yeah. That's a good one. Caught some good fish on that. Not a lot of people throw that.
I'm going back to Egypt tomorrow. I'm going to put a day in tomorrow and check some different watercolor and kind of see different parts of the lake where the mud's at and blah blah blah. I think I'm going to pull a crankbait rod out of the box tomorrow, and all this talking about crankbaits got me in the mood to go wind a crankbait.
I'm going to be throwing it a lot more this year. I've always thrown shallow ones, but I got away from the 5 and 6 XD. I mean, I pick them up and throw them every year a little bit, but I haven't actually went out and looked for 6 XD fish, or 5 XD fish. Yeah. Like, how I'll go looking for jig fish, or I'll go looking for punching fish or spinnerbait fish or frog fish, but I haven't really went and looked for 5 XD or 6 XD fish. I need to do that.
It's a mindset. It's a mindset to go throw that bait. But it's addictive when you start getting bites on it. It's addictive. And, it's all addictive. That's why we do it. But one thing, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, since this is a fishing report show, one thing I would tell everybody when they go out there, and I've noticed this from Guntersville up here to Egypt, and I'm sure it's look for, fish always set up on edges. A lot of times right now, those edges are watercolor, as opposed, I mean, there'll be an edge of weeds and stuff, but edges of watercolor can be really, really important right now. And all of our lakes are full of that right now with all this rain we keep getting, and it changes daily, really. But I've that edge of there's a sweet spot usually of that watercolor, and a lot of times I don't know if the fish should congregate on that, but the fish that'll bite are oftentimes on that transition of the watercolor.
Yep, it's a good point. And another little tip is some of those little run-ins. If you've got a steep bank, you'll get a little ditch that runs in. Bring in, I could bring off-colored water in. Maybe not so much, but anyway, that's current, and there will usually be some kind of a mud line or something around there, and you can have some really good days, especially when the water gets up in the 60s, like the mid 60s, low 70s, and you start getting that runoff from a good rain. Those fish, it's warm enough that those fish are already up there. When it's in the 50s, they might not quite be up there yet, so it doesn't pull them to that source as much as if it's in the high 60s. And they're already up there. They're going to gravitate towards that current because that current washes in sediment, washes in bugs and debris, and attracts the bait fish. Current fish just like current, no matter what happens. If there's all of a sudden there's an influx in current, they're curious. They're going to go up there and check it out. So that's another.
The year I won the DK tournament. God, is dating myself. Is I think 96. We won the DK tournament. That silly tournament used to get 100 boats in it on Devil's Kitchen. Anyway, the year we won it, we had a gully washer the night before. And this was in, I think, the end of March when they used to have it. But anyway, that's how we caught our fishes, all the way in the backs of those little run-ins. And we're just fishing further back into that stuff than other people. And then we got lucky and had a good tournament. So definitely pay attention to those run-ins.
A lot of times there'll be a little hole right there too. If it's a run-in that runs in that has water coming down it a lot, like
there'll be a little ditch of deeper section there.
Yeah. Say it's not a run-in that it takes 2 or 3 inches of rain to get going. If it's a run-in that only takes an inch of rain, that thing's going to be wallered out down there, and those fish will sit right on that little drop. So, like you said, you got to get all the way up in there and fish that little drop. Phil wants to know what your choice of hook is for a wacky rig.
I don't have a brand name. Usually, I don't throw a wacky rig as much as some do. I think mine's actually a Gamakatsu. I think it's a number 2. I usually like a 16th ounce weighted one a lot of times. With a weed guard for when I'm fishing it. Because a lot of times I'm fishing it like on the inside of these weed patches and stuff.
Yeah, I fished the VMC Weedless Nico hook. Is a hook that I started fishing probably like 3 years ago when they very first came out. And to me, that's the best wacky rig hook that I've found. It's got the 2 monofilament weed guards on it, and it's just enough.
Yeah.
That you can crawl that thing if you come up on some cover like a laydown or something. You can just kind of tap it and shake it, and then most of the time it'll kind of shake its way through that wood. Now I fished
Is that one weighted?
No, it's a weightless one. You may be able to get it weighted too. I don't know. And I use the size 2. Is the one that I use the most. The 2 or the 1, either one, for like a 4-inch Yumding or 5-inch Cinco or something. It's about the perfect hook for that. But it's a longer shank hook, but it's got that weed guard and it gets them good. It holds them, it pins them. And I've used I tell you what I don't like on the wacky rig is, I think you said Gamakatsu, but any of those that make the hook that has the little wire piece that's notched, or it may not even be wire, maybe hard plastic, but you put it over and and catch it on the barb, and it makes it weedless that way.
Oh,
you know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
no, the one
You
I
lose a
throw
lot of
doesn't have
fish
that
on
that you're
those.
talking
I
about.
lost a lot of good fish on those for some reason.
Yeah.
That's what I used to fish years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, Phil, check out that one. I think you'll like it. The BMC Weedless Nico hook. It's a pretty good one. Let's see here. Let me scroll through some of the rest of these comments here before we sign out. Max wants to know, and you kind of talked about this, but maybe you can run through just slightly again. What do you recommend for bass baits on Lake of Egypt next week?
Yeah, definitely. Fish, number one, fish shallow. I mean, there's always fish deeper, but right now, I think you're fishing for the majority of the fish shallow. It's super simple right now. Jig, or a beaver or a tube or something you can throw around those weeds that, a jig might get hung up a little bit more in that water willow. So, that'll cover you on a slow moving bait, a spinner bait or a chatter bait. And colors are simple, just white or white and chartreuse is fine, or black and blue. Dark colored would work too, especially in that dirtier water. Some of the crankbaits Gabe was just showing, any of those Frittssides would probably catch fish. A DT6, probably you couldn't go wrong with the DT6 right now, I wouldn't think. Yep. Just keep it simple. And but right now in Egypt, if you catch them, pay attention to wherever you're at, because there's probably a few more around there. It's the way it was for me today. I'd catch 2, 3, 4 in an area, and then it would die off a little bit. And then you'd run into them again, in little pods of fish. And all my fish were in, 2 to 4 feet of water. They were shallow. And I had a couple bite. Like I said earlier, I threw a bait up on the bank and drug it in and, got a bite. So there's some fish really shallow right now, which is to be expected this time of year. Plus, we've had a bunch of rain and we got watercolor. So really probably can't fish too shallow. It's a shallow guy's dream right now with all this rain. And we're going to have watercolor for a while. So,
what's up, white whale shadow bassin? Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all right. Don't be afraid to throw. I don't know if any of you guys throw a real light jig this time of year. Us Southern Illinois boys used to always throw something called a pee-wee jig. And Fred Washburn, Cottonmouth Lures, 16th ounce. I throw the pee-wee Magnum. It's a 16th ounce jig with a regular bass jig hook. He also makes one with a lighter wire hook. And when those fish get really shallow in this dirty water, I mean, that jig was invented on Crab Orchard. And this is the type of stuff that jig was kind of made for. When you want something that falls really slow, when you're pitching a bait up in really dirty, super shallow water, a really light jig like that sometimes will do some damage. But just fish shallow, fish confidently, and you'll run into them. It's not hard right now.
Gary Wagon is one of my favorite places to fish, especially.
I love Wagon.
Yeah, I've had some really good days. And you were talking about a DT6. I've had some pretty good days back in there on a DT6 and a chatterbait this time of year. Yeah. So it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, here's the deal on Wagon this spring. I caught fish in Wagon before I went to Guntersville. Wagon is the arm right now with the most muddy water in it. And I have not been back there since I'd say it was my first day in the water here after I got back from Guntersville. So, I'm quite sure with all the rain we've had while I was gone that's blown out again. It was just starting to clear up a little bit when I caught some fish back there last week. So you just gotta go back there and see. And Fish are there. It's just, whether it's too muddy or not, it's hard to know without having been back there today. I'll be able to tell you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I'm heading back tomorrow. So
Jeremiah Caldwell says he's had really good luck with the Jackal wacky hooks. Jay says, let's see. He said he ordered the Outcast Tackle Fighter Fly. Should have them anytime. I hope they are on.
Good deal.
That in my April trip. Yeah, he's fishing out there.
That Kansas lake he was talking about before. Good deal, Jay. That is a fun bite. When Gabe comes back from Minnesota after visiting me, he'll be able to tell you. I'll make sure I make Gabe catch one on that silly thing. But if it's clear water out there, I don't know anything about the lake, but if it's clear water, that it ought to play. I mean, a smallmouth is a smallmouth, and it's fun.
Max wants to know, are you guys fishing the bass tournament on Egypt next week? I'm not. Ron probably is.
Yeah, I've got one this Saturday. I'm jumping in USA Bassin just because we're not at Guntersville, and then the following week is our next Angler's Choice out there.
Look for the guy in the Vexus.
I think it's Saturday. Huh?
I said, look for the guy in the Vexus. That'll be Ron.
Yeah. There's one other. There's a guy with identical boat, but it's blue. Yeah.
I think I've seen it.
So I'm not the only one on there. Yeah, it's a blue one. He fishes Kincaid and stuff too. Good fisherman.
Riverbend Bassin wants to know, any news on Newton Lake? Nothing here if anybody out there has an update on Newton Lake. And for some of you guys that are just now getting in here, I saw, White Whale's on here and Shadow Bassin. Tom, I see you on here. What we're trying to do, I'll go over this real quick again before we jump off of here. Me and Ron are going to try to get on here, every Thursday or Friday, do weekly updates, and we need you guys. We need your help. Everybody out there that's listening, to make this a great community that shares fishing reports and local lake updates, not just local lake updates, any lake that you want to get on here and talk about your experiences. But what we're trying to do is create a community where people can come on here on, say, Thursday night, and they're going to be fishing Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. They can come on here, they can get some updates, and that way when they go to the lake, they will have something to bounce off of. But it takes all of us to do this. Ron can only fish so many lakes, I can only fish so many lakes, but there's we've got 42 people on here right now. That's 42 possible combinations of fishing reports and lakes that we can meet up on Thursday, jump back up on here and share all that information and just help each other out, help everybody catch more fish and have a good time. So that's kind of what we're after right here.
Yeah, and that gentleman earlier that commented saying he'd only been to Kincaid once and he was thinking about taking his boys there next weekend. That's exactly the situation where, I want to be able to help that guy take his boys or his daughters or whatever, help them go have a fun day on the water. If there's something that I can contribute to that, then I think that's a worthwhile thing to do. And, so yeah, and if any tip I give you on any of the lakes, if I got a tournament the next day, I may not tell you exactly where I'm doing it, but I'll be honest about how I'm catching my fish. And
Same here. Yep. I mean, I got a YouTube channel, so I don't hide anything. I just put it out there. If I delay it a week or something, that's one thing. But when it comes out, I'm showing you. I got a real good video coming up next week where I got to fish with Roger Fitzpatrick on Lake of the Ozarks, and he's kind of a legend down there. And you'll get to see how he caught 18 pounds. He got 5th place in the BFL with 230 boats. And you'll get to see how I got 60 something place, got one of the last checks and lost 5 pounds worth of bass that would have got me 12th place.
Ouch.
So, ouch. Yeah, exactly. Tom Morehouse wants to know, can you explain the rules for Egypt dock fishing?
You're not supposed to fish them. Here's the deal. you're not supposed to fish or cast within 10 feet of the docks. Don't get bent out. Don't worry about it. If you go by a dock and your bait goes and comes across the corner of the dock, it's no big deal. Most people are nice about it. You know, just don't sit there and flip someone's dock. The rule had good intentions when it was put in place. It was to protect people's property. You know, kids are swimming off the docks. They don't want hooks and ropes and stuff. The problem is some of the homeowners have taken the rule too literally. And I think their whole mission in life, in retirement, is to yell at fishermen who are 11 feet from their dock. And so if you run into that situation, just smile and just keep going. Don't worry about it. It's the good thing is, while there's plenty of fish that I'm sure are sitting underneath those docks at Egypt, you do not have to pitch docks at Egypt to catch fish. So
right,
there's plenty of ways to catch fish without just focusing on docks. But don't make it a big deal. Don't worry about it. Just come out and go fishing.
Bass Guy 1960, dude, that's classic. Newton is slow unless you ask the guy who runs the lodge at the lake.
Of course.
It's good stuff, man. Yeah. Max says his pops just bought a new Lund Deep V. It's blue and black. So wave at us if you see us, if he's out there on okay. Egypt or anywhere else.
Is Max, you going to be out here this weekend? Did he say? I think maybe he said. I don't remember.
I can't remember if he said he had a tournament or not. See, there's my short-term memory.
Yeah.
Josh wants to know what they're biting on at Grassy. I don't know. I know there's a bite going on over there.
Yeah, it's a typical Southern Illinois lake. I know Grassy really well. I've spent a lifetime over there. I haven't been over there this spring, so so there's that caveat to it. But Grassy is a very typical Southern Illinois lake. Has a lot of good weeds in it. A lot more weeds than Egypt, certainly. Not as many as Cedar, but it has good weeds. It always fishes traditionally. You can go up in the creeks, which are, if you run south and go to the left, there's a creek back there. If you run south and go to the right, you go back to the Giant City Neck. And, that's where your dirty water is going to be in either of those necks. The front third of the lake is going to stay relatively clear, even with all the rain we've had. There might be some color, but it's going to stay as clear as any of the lakes. And everything we've been talking about, it's the same right now. The fish are going shallow, chatterbait, spinnerbait, jig, of course, and you can fish it just like any of the other lakes that we're fishing. It's not going to be any different. And, with all the rain we had, again, the key is, I think, finding that right combination of watercolor and that's the part I can't help the guy out with right now because I haven't been over there, so I don't know what the watercolor is specifically, but I know generally what it would be. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, that is a great lake this time of year. If the water's still clear enough, that is one lake where that Carolina rig will flat work on the lead-in points and stuff. That's that lake was made for a Carolina rig.
Here's a very good question for what's going on right now. How do you guys pick apart fish on blown out, flooded chocolate milk lakes like we're getting right now? I can give you my answer on it real quick.
Yeah, I know what it is. Go ahead.
Once that water is up in the mid 40s, I'll keep a big thunder thumper in my hand, a big spinnerbait, and just fish shallow. It's that time of year. Yeah. The fish are going to be up shallow, and they just got to hear that bait. I would just cover water with that.
Keep it in your hand.
Keep it in your hand, man. Just keep it in your hand. You're gonna go through stretches where you're not going to get bit, and then you'll come into the right pocket or something and catch a couple fish. And another thing that I would do is also I would have some kind of jig or a soft plastic, something like a beaver or a rage crawl kind of switch between the two. And that's about what I would do if I'm fishing rocky lake. I would mix in that some kind of crankbait too, shallow, like a 5 foot or less.
Yeah, if you have to fish that ultra muddy water, and sometimes you want to fish that ultra muddy water. Sometimes that's the deal, but if that's your only option, that number one, that big spinner bait with the big blade, absolutely 100%. But then on your jig or plastic type baits, one thing I would add to that is pay attention to rate of fall. Whether you're throwing a plastic or a jig, rate of fall is really, really important in super dirty water. You don't, most of the time, unless you're getting to the bottom to drag on a log or something, most of the time I find in that really dirty water, I want a bait that falls very, very slowly. Gives them a little bit more of a chance to see it and to find it. And I will, a lot of times on a jig, I will use something with some chartreuse in the skirt to help with that. And, do whatever you can to help those fish see your bait. That's where the situation where I throw that 16th ounce Pee Wee Magnum jig, because it almost floats in the water, and you can catch them in that really dirty water. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Keeping it slow. 251 reeling, that's Pauly D down there on the coast. I don't have any tips on Table Rock right now. I will be going there in the middle of April, which that'll be too late. But if you check Pete Winters on YouTube, I believe it's spelled Wenners. He is a guide down there on Table Rock. And there's another guy named Eric Prey, who is also a guide down there, and they do weekly fishing reports. And they will,
they just didn't Pete just put one out the other day? I think I saw on Facebook.
I think so. Yeah, he does them every week. I'm not sure if he does it on the same day, but every week he's out there. It's going to be there'll be a jewel jig in there. There will be, I don't know. A lot of the baits are repeat baits, but it's worth watching. It'll give you a kind of an idea. And then, you can always call some of the local tackle shops down there. Just call them on the phone, and they're usually pretty open. Especially if you're there on the lake and you stop in a tackle shop, they're usually pretty honest about it, because they want to sell some baits and stuff. But they'll pull some baits off the shelf and show them to you. But I would think, I would think the jig, it's going to be a pre-spawn thing. They're going to be probably back in those lead-in banks, halfway back, and just depending on the water temperature and the kind of weather we have, how much current to pull and that kind of stuff. But I would think it's going to be typical
last channel swings in the back, so those big arms.
Yeah, a rock crawler, a wiggle wart, that kind of stuff plays down there. Something that bumps that 9 to 10 foot zone. Trying to think of what else. Table Rock's unique because it has the really clear water in the main lake, but you can run up some of those, like the James River and Kings River, and you can get some stained water if you want to make that run. So you got the option to fish several different ways. It's not just drop shotting or fishing a spoon over trees that are topped out in 40 foot of water, sitting in 90 foot of water. You can actually run up in those rivers and power fish shallow. If you want to do that, you can certainly can do that. Tom says he'll add reports for his local area. That's about all I fish anymore. That'd be great, Tom. That would be great.
Excellent.
Max says no.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It'll be fun to watch, guys north of us and south of us giving reports. The one thing I noticed driving down to Guntersville is watching things green up. Like all the plum trees that all flowered out down there. Dogwoods were just starting. You could kind of see spring as you drove south, kind of emerging. And then when I drove back, I noticed the difference just from the time I was gone. My yard's green now, and it wasn't green when I left. So those reports will be kind of interesting to hear, south of us and north of us, how the bite's progressing north. You know what I mean? That'll be interesting.
Right. Max, he said his pops bought the Lund DV. He's going to be there in 2 weeks, I guess. Or what do you say? Next weekend Friday, crappie fishing.
Okay.
Let me hit some of the rest of these comments real quick so we can get out of here. I got to work in the morning. I need to tuck my kids in, I do believe. This has been really cool though. Here's Mike Russell. Let's see what he's got going on here. Grass Lakes, do yourself a favor and try the Strike King Hyper Hunter crankbait. Not great around eelgrass, but on others it's awesome.
There's not much that's great around eelgrass, I found out, depending on that dang eelgrass on Guntersville. It's there by the acre, and if it's not floating on the top, that's the stuff that gets you. The stuff that's off the bottom, because it gets in your line, and if you can get where the wind is blowing it out of there and it's just on the bottom, then you can fish it.
Yeah, good tip, Josh.
Telling someone to go fish eelgrass in Guntersville is like telling someone to fish timber at Devil's Kitchen. At least that was my impression.
Or docks like the Ozarks.
Yeah.
Josh recommends the jackhammer or swim jig in the chocolate milk, black and blue. Was a good color, sometimes white. Definitely a good bait in that stained water. That's right, Tom. Thanks. Focused fishing, 251 reeling. Focused fishing is the reports that those guys do down there on Table Rock. And I think we got all these. Yeah. Okay, we're done with the comments. That's about right. It's just right at 2 hours. So, man, it was cool talking with you, Ron, hanging out. And
absolutely, I look forward to it.
I'm sorry you weren't able to fish that Guntersville tournament, but at the same time, I'm glad you made it back safe and you're sound over there.
It was a tough decision, and we made the decision, and it is what it is, and I'm glad. I'm regretting it, and I'm glad that everyone down there is safe. That's the way you want it to be, and I don't regret it. I mean, but you just the competitive side of you you want to be in there mixing it up, and but that's okay. Live to fight another day, and for the people down there in Alabama that weren't so lucky, there was not too far from Guntersville, there was a lot of damage. So for those people, a prayer. But we made it home safe. I got no complaints. I think that Gabe, you had a great idea asking for people to contribute fishing reports to you throughout the week or whenever, and kind of that'll really improve what we can offer everybody once a week, and hopefully more people on fish.
Everything.
Yeah,
definitely. If you want to send any updates or reports, or even better yet, get on here next Thursday and give us your updates live and stuff. That way everybody can see them. If you're not able to get on here for some reason, you can send them to Gabe Montgomery Fishing or 10 Horse Monty on Facebook, or Instagram is 10 Horse Monty 6. And then Ron's RD Outdoors on Facebook. You could send them that way if you want. And I think that's it. This has been great, and this is going to just continue to grow. I think if we stay consistent, and you guys out there in YouTube land help us out. I'm hoping, kind of curious to see where this all goes, and even if it stays, just smaller, that's cool, because we're all going to be getting some really good information. And like I said earlier, we can't get out there and fish all these lakes, so you guys are really playing a big role in this too. So next Monday we'll have a live stream. I'll be with Greg from Backyard Bassin, and we have Chad Morgan Taylor is going to be our guest. So Chad's a Bassmaster BASS Elite Series Pro. He's down there on Pickwick right now. He was supposed to fish day 1 today, but they postponed it, and he'll be starting it off
Did
tomorrow.
they postpone it because of the weather that?
Yeah, they had a lot of current, a lot of wind. It's just really dangerous. So he's going to be on the stream next Monday. So that's upcoming, and then next Thursday we'll do this again. So anyway, that's it, Ron. I'll let you guys go. I got to get up here. I got to get up and go to work in the morning and kind of shut things down. And appreciate all you guys coming on this little adventure, and appreciate you, Ron. And I'll get in touch with you the next day or two and catch up.
Okay. Sounds good. I appreciate you, buddy, and appreciate everyone tuning in and listening. And I always enjoy talking fishing, and if I can help anybody out, look forward to it.
Cool. All right, guys.
All right.
We will talk to you later. I'm going to sign off now. See ya.
Later, guys.